Hello everyone and welcome to Saga Spectrum, the channel that explores the world's epic legends. Today we're taking a look at an apparently well-known myth, that of Medusa. If I say apparently well-known, it's because although everyone knows Medusa by her appearance and powers, her story and the succession of events that led her to become what she is less well told. How about you? Do you know her story? Tell me in the comments. Let's start with the basics. Medusa, also known as the Gorgon, is the daughter of Phorcys and Ceto, two primordial marine deities. Note that Ceto is actually the root of cetacean, but I digress. So, by virtue of her parents, Medusa is the daughter of Gaia, no less. She's usually depicted as a woman with snakes for hair, but more on that later. What gives her her terrible character is above all her ability to turn people to stone. Let's face it, that's what she's best known for. But trust me, a monster doesn't appear by magic. And if we look at the story of our friend with the recalcitrant hair, well, maybe she's not so bad after all, but just the victim of a twist of fate. The first mention of the Gorgon, whose head is placed on the aegis of Athena, comes from Homer, around the 8th century BC. Very few details of the myth are mentioned, neither Perseus nor the name Medusa. All that is mentioned is the Gorgon's appalling appearance, with its supernaturally hideous head, terrifying even the greatest Greek heroes. 200 years later, Hesiod would no longer speak of the Gorgon, but of Gorgons. For yes, the myth of Medusa obviously refers to the Gorgon named Medusa, but she has two sisters. Not to change the theme, they're always described in an unflattering way. Their hair is made of snakes, and they scream horribly. So you see, at that time, very few texts remained about this snake woman. All we know is that she and her two sisters were horrible creatures, and that Medusa's head was attached to the aegis. But what are the events that led to this, and above all, isn't there a woman behind this monstrous hair who, before leading the serpentine life she does today, was getting close to us poor mortals? Let's find out. In fact, hold on to your hats because this may come as a surprise, but the more recent, circa 5th century BC, and more detailed accounts that have come down to us seem to be unanimous. Originally, Medusa, who lives on the island of Seriphos, was a beautiful woman. Yes, really beautiful, and as in all stories, a human who stands out admirably from the rest eventually attracts attention. To the Gorgon's misfortune, she ends up catching the eye of the gods. Here, the narratives diverge, but in both cases, let's just say it doesn't work out to our subject's advantage. In the first version, it's Poseidon who notices her. He takes a liking to her, and as the gods are not known for their lacy ways, they have what we'll call a carnal relationship, and not a very consensual one on the young woman's side. Double problem. It takes place in the precincts of a temple dedicated to Athena. This doesn't please Athena, who seems to focus all her anger not on Poseidon, but on Medusa. In the second version, Medusa is so beautiful and her hair so perfect that she rivals Athena. As you can imagine, this doesn't please the goddess of wisdom, and she turns all her attention to her rival. In both cases, then, Medusa doesn't have much say in the matter, and because of her more than advantageous appearance, attracts the wrath of one of the major goddesses of the Greek pantheon. It is this goddess who, to punish the impudent girl, physically transforms Medusa. Her hair, previously so beautiful, becomes snake-like. Her eyes dilate, and above all, her gaze petrifies all who cross her path. Remind you of something? like a large serpentine creature that wanders around a certain wizarding school. If you've thought of it, well done, but more on that later. So, back to our story. In view of these elements, Medusa isn't just a terrible monster, the scourge of humanity who transforms her victims, driven by unfailing cruelty and vice. No, she's simply a victim of the weight of fate that falls upon her. From there, you'd think that our unlucky friend's story would end there. But you know Murphy's Law. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. So let me introduce you to a new character, Perseus. He and his mother are chased out of Argos, where they live, and arrive on the island of Seriphos. They are taken in by a fisherman, Dictys, who happens to be the brother of the island's king, Polydectes. The king falls in love with Perseus's mother, Danae, and is desperate to keep him away from her, so that he can have a little more privacy with his mother. At the time, no one had yet had the idea of sending their child to an expensive and distant university, so Polydectes put in place a plan that I think could be described as a little more extreme. To get rid of the son who was bothering him, he challenged him to bring back Medusa's head, or else he would marry his mother. Poor Perseus, aware of the difficulty of the task before him, went off to lament at the other end of the island. By a twist of fate, it was then that he met Hermes, the messenger of the gods. Hermes, along with Athena, who certainly holds a grudge, offered him their help and directed him to the Grey, the three guardians of the three Gorgons, and incidentally, also their sisters. But Greek genealogy is a bit complicated, McKay. By force, he steals the path leading to the nymphs, minor deities. They're the ones who'll show him the way to the Gorgons, and since they're so nice, they'll also give him 3 magic items: winged sandals that let him fly, the Hades helmet that makes him invisible, and a bag to hold Medusa's head. The whole crew is determined to smoke poor Medusa. Armed with his new equipment, Perseus flies to the Gorgons' lair where he sees them for the first time. Horrible women covered in scales with boar tusks and hair like snakes. A horrifying sight, all the more so when nothing separates you from this kind of monster, who will also turn you to stone with a single glance. Luckily for him, the Greek hero is no fool, and, rendered invisible by his helmet, he approaches Medusa at arm's length, observing her in the reflection of his shield. He'll have to be quick, though, as her sisters are just around the corner, and immortal to boot. Oh yes, I forgot to tell you, but basically Gorgons and Grey are immortal except for Medusa. Now that's bad luck. Stealthily approaching, he separates the poor sleeping snake woman's head from her body in one fell swoop, then immediately flees, taking his trophy with him. As he fled, drops of blood escaped from the head, giving birth to, well, yes, the basilisk. Later, Perseus used Medusa's head to save his mother from the clutches of King Polydectes, and the head ended up on Athena's aegis. But that's another story I'll tell you if you're interested. Let me know in the comments. Legend has it that Medusa became pregnant by Poseidon, and the 2 sons, Chryser and Pegasus, sprang from her severed neck. Yes, the winged horse. Moreover, the blood from her wound, if it comes from the left vein, is said to be an implacable poison and a panacea if it comes from the right. To sum up, I think we can say that Medusa is just an ordinary woman who, like all of us, has had a bad day. Except that this day lasts much longer than a day, and it's the work of a whole bunch of gods who, for some obscure reason, have decided to put her lower than the ground. Because, to remind you, she had to deal with Poseidon, Athena, and Hermes, three major Olympian gods, plus the nymphs. Oh, and Perseus, too. A guy you don't even know, but he's ringing your doorbell, intent on smoking you out, armed, invisible, and able to fly. So, having read the whole story, do you still think Medusa is the villain? That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't hesitate to subscribe, like the video, and let me know in the comments. You can also let me know if there's a particular mythological subject you'd like me to cover, and I assure you, I'll do my best to meet your request.